Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm wearing black today because we are in mourning of the Philadelphia Eagles season as it comes to an end, and it's a weird feeling to not being able to talk about the Eagles playing a game on Sunday or Monday. But off to the offseason we go, right? They demoted Kevin Patullo recently, and we've heard rumblings and reports about the quarterback, A.J. Brown, the head coach. We're going to tackle each subject at some point, but today I'm going to talk about the offensive coordinator position, the coaching staff, decisions, and some of the new hires, and talk a little bit about A.J. Brown because, quite frankly, we're getting a lot of people in, the fans of the NFL and people who are rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles who are really hounding on A.J. Brown, and I am a supporter of A.J. Brown. I talked about it in the episode after the game where I couldn't defend him, and it may have been his last game as a Philadelphia Eagle, and it's quite possible that it might be his last game, but you never know with Howie Roseman and this organization what they are going to decide to do with a talented player like that. I would just say be careful of how we talk about A.J. Brown because, again, he's the best wide receiver we have had in franchise history. Better than T.O., better than Mike Quick. I mean, you name the guy, I would pick A.J. Brown over his tenure in Philadelphia, over anybody in Philadelphia at this moment. And he's had career years with us. He's had he's been a big reason why as to the Philadelphia Eagles' success over the past 4 or 5 years. And without him, you are not in the position that you are in terms of being looked at as one of the better and more talented run franchises in the National Football League. So while you want to hound on him for the lack of effort in that playoff game, totally get that, and you're entitled to do it. Don't just wish that he's going to go away. I would not want you to think that way because, quite frankly, players like that don't grow on trees. Just ask the Tennessee Titans. They tried to play that game, and it's bitten them in the ass. When you got a player like A.J. Brown, you got to find a way to get him happy and to get him to stay and buy in to what's going on in Philadelphia. And buying in is the hard part. Buying into a system, to an offensive system like this, is a very hard thing to do. And when it's successful like it was last season, you can get head coaching gigs. Kellen Moore got the head coaching job for the New Orleans Saints. When it was successful like it was in 2022 with Jalen Hurts' best year, Shane Steichen became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's doing a good job over there. However, when you don't have the success that you're looking at, or that you're looking for, rather, you get put in a position where you become the scapegoat. And does that mean that you're bad coaches? No. I don't think Kevin Patullo per se is a bad coach. I think he's a horrible play caller. I don't think he's a bad coach. Okay. He doesn't know sequencing. He doesn't have any rhythm. There's no flow to the play calling. That's fair to say. And I know people are going to look at and see the concepts that we run and how simplistic they are. And to that, there's a quote that Kevin Patullo said to Ryan Fitzpatrick saying, people are way too hard on me. They don't know the inner workings of the Philadelphia Eagles. And to me, that kind of caught my ear. They don't know the inner workings of the Philadelphia Eagles. And now there's reports saying the organization and everybody in the building is reluctant to criticize Jalen Hurts. And those are the types of things that Kevin Patullo was talking about. So before we just go out and just reprimand Kevin Patullo, let's just understand that there's a lot more to this conversation that we're going to get into in this offseason about this football team that's really, really interesting, and that might actually explain some of the discrepancies and some of the waves and the ebbs and flows as this team goes on year after year after year. Now, to me, I blame the organization for that, but again, you'll hear that in another episode at another time. But today, this is an episode regarding Kevin Patullo and a little bit about AJ Brown. And we kind of talked about AJ Brown before, and we're going to dive into other things regarding Kevin Patullo. Who is replacement's going to be? Who's the optimal replacement for a guy like Kevin Patullo? What it's going to be, and are the problems solved overall in Philadelphia by getting rid of Kevin Patullo and potentially trading AJ Brown in the offseason? Will the problems be solved? We're going to dive into that in just a moment. But before we do that, let's introduce you to the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Body, and like you, I am a Birds fan who talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here. Help us grow this channel organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review, because in the end, it doesn't cost you a damn thing to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We appreciate your support on the opposite side of the camera and on the opposite side of the airwaves. Kevin Patullo, will all the problems be gone if Kevin Patullo is out of the offensive coordinator position? I say no. Okay? I say no because, quite frankly, you're not changing quarterbacks, you're not changing head coach, and the philosophy that they have adopted over the course of the past 3 years since Shane Steichen has left, and quite frankly, since after the 2023 season, it's given them a hell of a lot of success. It just has. Objectively speaking, if you were running a football team and you ran your offense and you ran your team a specific way, and it's won you 50 ball games and like 19 losses over the course of his tenure, him being Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl title, a floor minimum of a wild card loss, and on average, the last 2 quote unquote collapses that we've had, one in 2023, and some would consider this one to be a collapse, an 11-win season, winning the division. That doesn't seem too bad of a collapse here. Are you really going to change philosophy? You'd be silly to go ahead and change the philosophy that's brought you so much success over time, right? However, this is what the fans want. This is what a lot of people want to change in Philadelphia. They want to know whether or not the struggles with this offense were really Kevin Patullo's fault and Nick Sirianni's philosophy, or is it the quarterback's inefficiencies and deficiencies and ineptitude in some areas? When I answer no to the question of will the problem somehow be solved with Kevin Patullo being gone, I say no because, quite frankly, you're not changing head coach. You're not changing philosophy. Jalen Hurts, the quarterback that he is, while I believe he's better than I think people give him credit for, there are certainly things that he is not very good at. And that's with any quarterback in the National Football League. And a lot of people want to put solely the blame on Jalen Hurts. I disagree. I think Nick Sirianni and this philosophy has a role in the development of the quarterback. But they're not changing what they do. You're not changing, 3 NFC East titles, like I mentioned, 2 conference title appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl title. You're not changing your track record of success over the past 5 years with Nick Sirianni at the helm, with Jalen Hurts at the helm. You're not changing what you do. We are one of the better winning organizations over the past 5 years. Outside of the Chiefs, who the hell has won more than Philadelphia? Nobody. While Kevin Patullo was not a good play caller, had no feel for the game, it wasn't the concepts that were a problem for him. It was the fact that he just had no rhythm in a game. Brian Johnson in 2023, he led the 8th ranked offense for us in the National Football League. He was fired immediately and we couldn't get him out fast enough. I'm one of the few people that believe that not only was the defense terrible, but the offense was awful too in the collapse year. And he had every right to get rid of Brian Johnson. And people would say, Brian Johnson, like I said, was 8th in the league in the NFL. Why would you get rid of a coach like that? Because the system had no rhythm. It had no flow. The offense had no rhythm and no flow. And with Kevin Patullo this season, the offense had no rhythm. It had no flow. Designs, simplistic as they may be, could work. But nothing built off each other. Nothing made sense in how you called the game. Kevin Patullo literally has a quote that said, I just call run plays for the sake of calling run plays. How the hell are you an NFL coach and that's what comes out of your mouth? Every play, every game plan, rather, there's got to be a rhyme or reason for it. When I look at offensive coordinators, when I look at a coach that calls a game, the thing that I want, I don't care about your concepts. I don't care about whether or not they run something simple or something complex, whether they do motion or not. There's, for lack of a better phrase, and forgive the violent nature of the phrase, there's many ways to skin a cat. The thing that I look for, what's your counterpunch? Can you zig when people want you to zag? What's the sister play that you got when all things that you designed something to do does not work? How can you pivot? Those are the things to me as an offensive mind that would matter. Guys like Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen. These are guys that can pivot off of when something doesn't work in their offense. Hell, Kellen Moore showed the ability to do that last season. It's one of my biggest critiques, and I've said it multiple times on this show, and it's, I guess in this sense, it's a hot take. But coaches like Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, those types of coaches, Mike McDaniel even, those types of coaches, when something is just off in their system, in their flow, in the rhythm of their offense, they have a hard time to get back on track. It's my biggest gripe with coaches like that, especially offensive minds. But if you took away something from, let's say, Sean McVay, could he beat you in another way? Yes, he can. With Andy Reid, can he do it? Yes, he can. With Shane Steichen, sometimes he's stubborn about it, but he can. He can beat you in other ways. Kellen Moore showed last season he can do it in other ways. So to me, if I'm running a utopian football team, that's what I would want in an offensive mind. Are you going to find that on the open market? Probably not. You're probably not going to find coaches like that out on the open market because, I mean, at that point, they'd probably be a head coach or they'd already have a job, right? So what exactly are you going to find in the open market? What exactly is the fit for Philadelphia? What exactly are you looking for in an offensive coordinator for this football team? That question is going to be answered by the organization, and it leads me to the topic of whether or not this offensive coordinator position is meant for Nick Sirianni, or is it meant to accentuate Jalen Hurts? That's the biggest question mark here. And with the reports that we saw about how people in the building are reluctant to criticize Jalen Hurts, that's a reflection on the organization. That's a reflection on the head coach. I believe Jalen Hurts is a player who wants to be coached hard. When you get coached by guys like Nick Saban, when you get coached by Lincoln, like you want quality coaching. And I'm not sitting here suggesting that Nick Sirianni is a bad coach. He's not. He's proven not to be. Do I think he's one of the best coaches in the league? Maybe, I don't know. I certainly believe that there are other coaches who can come in here and get more out of Jalen Hurts than he has. But then again, the track record speaks for itself and the resume speaks for itself. So I'm kind of diving off the rails and kind of deviating from the topic. The thing, like I said, I would look for in a coaching staff and an offensive mind is, are you going to accentuate the skills of Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts? If you're going to accentuate the skills of Nick Sirianni, there's one coordinator out there that's perfect for Jalen Hurts, that's perfect for this system, or rather two. Excuse me, there's two guys. One of them I don't think will take the job. That are good enough to be quality play callers in the league, but also be bad enough as not being a candidate for head coaching jobs. The guy is Frank Reich, obviously, who I think everybody in Philadelphia would love to have back. Also, I mean, Doug Peterson's out there too, but I doubt the organization is going to bring in Doug Peterson because that would be smart to do for their quarterback and for their organization, but they won't do it. The other guy, in my opinion, and Emmanuel Acho talked about it on his show, Speak Easy, Greg Roman. Greg Roman would probably be, in my opinion, the perfect offensive coordinator for this football team. He's good enough where he has a rhyme and a reason to call a game. He's proven to work with quarterbacks that have the ability to use their legs and be mobile. He's worked with Colin Kaepernick, worked with Lamar Jackson, got him an MVP. Could he potentially do work with Jalen Hurts? Yes. And this would be the most talented that he's had. You saw Justin Herbert just this last season under Greg Roman. Now, while they've had some injuries all throughout their line, Justin Herbert had a pretty good year as a quarterback. Started using his legs more, started showing his athletic ability a little bit more. Greg Roman, in my opinion, is the perfect candidate for this job. He's the perfect coach for this job because, one, he's going to run the ball the way this philosophy that Nick Sirianni has adopted for this football team wants to do now that Saquon Barkley's in the backfield. You develop the quarterback in a system where if Greg Roman is good enough, which I think he will be, he'll be here long term. At least for the next 2-3 years, he will be the same offensive coordinator. He'll be the same voice in the ear of the quarterback, which to me is valuable in the development of the quarterback. If every year you're at your job and every single year you have a different boss who expects different things of you and says things in different ways, and his expectations of you are changing every single year, you're not going to be the greatest worker. For the most part. Some would argue if you're a quality worker, you're a quality worker. It doesn't matter. Whoever is there, you're going to do your job no matter what. And that's also a fair point. And that's the people who are critical of Jalen Hurts would say too. How many offensive coordinators do we have to run through for you before you could say, hey, Jalen Hurts, you're the problem? It's why I asked the question before, does getting rid of Kevin Patullo as the play caller or changing the offensive coordinator change the problem? Maybe it doesn't, because the philosophy's still the same. The quarterback's still the same. The organization's still the same. So if that's the cards that you're playing with, you need to get a coach who's going to come in here and be somebody who not only fits your philosophy, who's going to accentuate the skills of your quarterback while also at the same time not being good enough to threaten the job of Nick Sirianni and also not be a candidate to be a head coach for another team. It's why Greg Roman is the perfect candidate for this job. Like, I don't see why we're interviewing guys like Mike McDaniel, Zach Robinson. Why are we interviewing guys like that? Because, number one, you don't have that offensive skill set amongst the players you got. You're not going to be able to run the same offense you did with Tua Tagovailoa that you will be able to do with Jalen Hurts. It's not the same. Zach Robinson's the same way. You're not going to get the same output. People want to put Kevin Stefanski in because he's got Philadelphia ties or Pennsylvania ties. He's looking for a head coaching gig. He ain't going out there and taking a demotion when he's a quality head football coach. And Brian Daboll, I don't want Brian Daboll near Jalen Hurts because, quite frankly, yeah, he helped Josh Allen ascend, but he also was the coordinator that had him have a high turnover rate, that got him hit a lot as a runner. Jalen Hurts doesn't want to get hit too much. Todd Monken's probably following John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. Quality move by them, by the way. Cliff Kingsbury, while I would really, really like for him to be the coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, why would he leave the situation he's in? Why would he not get a head coaching job somewhere? He's quality enough to get a head coaching job. I think he's done a fine job in Washington. You realize this year they're like top 8 in rushing, and they've had no Jaden Daniels? That's a hell of a job by Cliff Kingsbury. And I've been critical of him in the past, but he certainly has earned the opportunity to go ahead and be a head coach somewhere else. And more likely than not, I would assume he's going to get interviews for head coaching gigs. And he should. Let's just assume now for a second that you bring in a guy like Greg Roman to run the offense, who I think would be a perfect fit. Is that hire good enough to keep A.J. Brown on the roster now? Can you as the organization, can you as a fan base convince A.J. Brown to come back for Philadelphia and finish out your contract here? That's kind of the big question here in regards to A.J. Brown. Because the frustration that A.J. Brown has had on this football team, it all started when Saquon Barkley got here in the building. You realize that. Once Saquon Barkley entered the building, it completely changed the dynamics of not only the locker room, but the dynamics of the offense. Everything started running, no pun intended, through Saquon Barkley. The risk-averse offense, as it's now been coined, was adopted once Saquon Barkley got into the building. And I know people are going to want to criticize Jalen Hurts for that, where the first 4 games of the 2024 season, they went to Kellen Moore's high-passing offense, and they were 2-2, and they were awful. You realize we were 1 drop away from being 3-1. You know what I mean? Like, If we went 3-1, do you think we would change philosophy at that point? Probably not. The reason they changed philosophy is because everybody was calling for the head coach's job with the way he was managing the damn game. Again, neither here nor there. Point being is Greg Roman, with this offensive staff and talent and the quarterback, is that enough for A.J. Brown to say, you know what, I'm willing to give it another go? Look, if I were A.J. Brown, I wouldn't go anywhere. My best years in my career have been with this roster, with this organization, with this quarterback, and quite frankly, with this head coach. However, since Saquon Barkley has entered the building, that dynamic has changed. And that, to me, is the strife that A.J. Brown is dealing with. It's not the fact that he's not getting his numbers per se. It's that the offense isn't flowing through him. And quite frankly, I think that's an okay thing. I think that's normal. When you're as dominant of a player as A.J. Brown is, when you believe that you are that guy, when you believe that you are a top of the NFL in terms of talent, in terms of ability, and you believe you're one of those guys, you want to be the focal point. When you look at the offense in Cincinnati, who's the focal point of the offense besides Joe Burrow? Certainly ain't Chase Brown. You're looking at Jamar Chase. In Minnesota, you're looking at Justin Jefferson. For the Rams, outside of Matt Stafford, I know for damn sure it ain't Kyron Williams. It's Puka Nacua. Seattle, it's Jackson Smith and Njigba. All of these players, great wide receivers, they are the focal point of the offense. A.J. Brown, is like the third option. This year, he was almost like the fourth option. Saquon, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. And in my opinion, he's the best player of the bunch. I still believe he's the best player on the team. And yet he's not even a focal point. You realize there were games where he was being targeted like 3 times? That's the transformer, A.J. Brown. And he's getting 3 targets. If you were him, wouldn't you want to be traded too? Winning is not the only thing that matters to these players, guys. That's the other thing. That's the other part of the conversation that people don't like to have. Winning is not truly every single thing that matters. When you're trying to build legacy, when you're trying to build something that's going to last forever, it's not just winning the Super Bowl. A.J. Brown even said it, like, I've reached the pinnacle of the mountaintop, and this is how I feel. He doesn't know who he was yet. What he is an alpha who needs to be the focal point of the offense, to be the guy that forces you to bend your knee against their will. That's who he is. That's what gets him fired up to play football. And in the end, in all of everybody's heart of hearts, that's the exact reason why you play football too. That's the exact reason why you go out there and simulate being a player. It's to push a man against their will in a direction that they don't want to go. You put somebody in a blender. You make somebody do something they don't want to do. It's power. It's control. It's ability. It's everything that it's dominance. That's what it establishes. And that's what A.J. Brown is seeking. And he can't get that in Philadelphia with the philosophy that you have built around this football team. That's his frustration. Will the offensive coordinator you get make Saquon Barkley the dominant force? Or will it make A.J. Brown and this quarterback the dominant force? That's the question. And to me, I don't think they're going in that direction. And thus, A.J. Brown's probably have played his last game in Philadelphia. And I'm saddened by it because he's such a great player. But more likely than not, he's going to be shipped out of Philadelphia. And it's a damn shame, too. Because like I said, to me, he's the best wide receiver we've had in franchise history. And everybody in Philadelphia is looking at him like he's just some castaway guy. Like you just replace him in a heartbeat. No. You don't just grow guys like A.J. Brown on trees. Yeah, Devontae Smith is excellent, and I believe he's a number one guy. He is not A.J. Brown. He's not. Get that clear. So, yeah. A.J. Brown, while you are at times a headache in terms of you're pouting and complaining, you're still a great player. So I get your perspective, but I hope and pray to the man above, the Lord above, whatever you believe in, that A.J. Brown is able to clear his head and comes into the next season with a fresh mind and hopefully with a coordinator that'll help accentuate the abilities of our quarterback, which will thus improve the passing game and improve the offense. To me, that guy is going to be Greg Roman. That's who, in my opinion, if I had to choose somebody, it would be that guy. I think he'd be perfect for Jalen Hurts. But the organization's looking at Mike McDaniel and maybe some other guys they're going to bring in for interviews. So we will find out as the news comes along, as the offseason continues. We're going to elaborate and talk about it more and more. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below here. What your thoughts are on this offensive coordinator searching position. Is the problem solved that Kevin Patullo is now out as offensive coordinator? And what do you make of the A.J. Brown situation? Because quite frankly, I mean, I know where I stand on it. I would keep him. But if he's going to keep asking to be traded, which apparently there's a report out there saying he wants to do that he's done that multiple times, it's going to be tough to not acquiesce to it. So, again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. On that note, we will talk about other things in regards to this Philadelphia Eagles football team for another time. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts. We'll talk about Nick Sirianni in another episode. But for now, we will see you back here next time for the next episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.